ENT 110 students, hi, Instructor Robertson here, and we are entering week 4 of our 8-week course. All right, so we have a couple of things going on this week. First, I just wanted to make sure that you are getting caught up. I know we had a little issue, a few issues, technological issues with Blackboard. The school did, and some of you were missing work and had some work that was still being turned in. I just want to make sure that you are on top of the work that you are turning in. So we have, at this point, I have the grade book. I'm working on week 3's grades. Some of those are already in the grade book. You had homework from week 2, homework from week 1 that's now overdue, but I will still give you credit if you turn it in late. You need to get some points on the board, right? You want to get into good habits of getting work in, and if for some reason it's late, get it in anyway, so get some points, right? So we had a discussion 1. Most of you have posted in there. If you haven't, you still want to get some points, you need to post in discussion 1. So go into your Blackboard and look at the discussion post labeled discussion 1. Especially if you look at your grades and you see zeros, right? Not for the current week, but for discussion 1, for week 1 homework and week 2 homework. If you see anything in there that is a 0, that means that I do not have the work from you. So you need to contact me or send me the work or post in the discussion post. Now, that out of the way. We are moving on to week 4, right? So I still have some week 3 homeworks to get caught up on, and also some discussion number 2s that aren't due yet, but that are up and posted. So give me a little time to get those, next day or 2, to get the week 3 homework posted in your grade, and also the discussion number 2 updated in the grade book. When you are submitting homework, just a reminder, send it directly to my email. It is the best way to do that. The format for this semester will be the same. It's pieces of homework. You work on them and you send them in to me via email. So everyone's doing a pretty good job. I have a lot of great students this semester, and I am very excited about that. These 8-week courses are very fast-paced, though, I will say. All right, so let's look at a quick review of what was due for last week, and then, which was last night, and then what's due this week. And I did already open up week 4, if any of you were looking around in week 4 on Blackboard. All right, so in your ENT text, which some of you may have purchased the text, I'm still waiting for them to show up in the library, that there would be a few extra. Mary Howells, our librarian, is always there to help, but she's always there to help if you have any technological issues as well. She's on campus all day, every day. So if you're able to get in, or if you want to call, she's at her desk all day, every day on campus. If you call the campus and you ask for the librarian. Now, from our text, this week, we have a couple things going on. This is the week that we will be having our midterm. And our midterm, if you have been keeping up with the homework, pretty much the midterm is a recap of the homework that we have done up until this point. So this week's homework, this week's chapter is not included on the midterm. So from weeks 1, 2, and 3, all of that is fair game. So week 1, I had you do chapters 1 and 2, and I had you do some homework questions relating to chapters 1 and 2. And in week 2, I had you do chapters 4 and 5. So now we're at chapters 1 and 2, 4 and 5. So those are all fair game. And then last week, week 3, I had you guys work on chapters 6 and 7. So those are the chapters that will be on the midterm. You are able to use your homework. And so I will be looking at that. There is a chance that I will post the exam. I had a request for the exam to be posted a little bit earlier than Friday, so I am clarifying that. And I will send an email out later today letting you know when the posting of the exam, if it is going to be posted early or if you are going to have extra time in the end. Typically, I don't do that, but I did have because the communication lines are open and the request is there, we should have a little more time in the midterm than I normally give. All right, so the first chapters are from week 1, week 2, and week 3 are all fair game. Now, let's see. So down to week number 4. And in week 4, you will, if you haven't yet done your discussion, right? I'm actually moving. You'll see the discussion move into week 4. And the discussion is, I can get this moved into week 4. There we go. All right. The discussion post is now in week 4. It is due on 9/19. If you are having any trouble finding someone to interview, whether it's in person, via Zoom, via phone, you ask them questions over email or over text messaging, however you get in contact with an individual is fine. And then what I did was, if you look there, there are some topics that you should try to hit to give you a better picture and to give the class a better picture of the individual that you interviewed. We will be using this discussion number 2 because this is a 1 of 2 part discussion. So the following week, I will introduce what the second part is. And so we will work on that for 2 weeks, the second part of the discussion. All right. So if you're having any issues, let me know. Most of you actually have posted already, and they are looking great. Looks like you found some wonderful people to interview, and I look forward. I've read a few of those. I look forward to reading a few more and hearing about success stories. All right. So in chapter 8, it's talking about, there's only one chapter this week. I'm giving you a little bit of a lighter week only because we also have the midterm going on. So you only have one chapter due for homework this week. And I also have a short video up there, marketing your small business. So there's some tips and tools there. So that is the first thing I would say. Once you read chapter 8 of the text, which you should all have copies of the text at this point, flipping through chapter 8. Chapter 8 is actually quite long. And there are some great success stories in here, how companies had an idea and then figured out how to reach their target market. And here at EC3, one of the courses that you will be taking is actually entrepreneurial marketing. So this is a good chapter that kind of touches on, this is kind of a 101 course, right? We call it a 110, but touches on that one component. That is actually a whole course here that we offer. So when you're looking at this chapter, just be thinking there's a whole course I'll be taking that kind of dives into marketing your small business. Thinking about the marketing mix, right? The 4 Ps, pricing, promotion, product, and placement. Those of you that have had Business 101, we talked about the marketing mix. How is it different when you are marketing your own small business from an entrepreneurial standpoint? So looking at that, entrepreneurial marketing. Figuring out how to get good research, right, is another component that we sometimes overlook. And I know a couple of the questions this chapter talk about getting primary research versus getting secondary research, right? So if you're doing primary research on your product, trying to figure out who your demographic is and what kind of pricing will be comfortable for them, you're actually going out and doing the research yourself firsthand, right? And targeting your item or your service. And so thinking about that versus a secondary where you can go to any type of data mining situation or any type of census data, things that have already been collected, and use that to help you figure out, looking at market data, right? What are the other products that are out there? What's the pricing for those items? So all of those things come into play when we're talking about primary and secondary data. So chapter 8, so that is our second part, 8.2. Looking at opportunities, right? We've already been touching on that, and then figuring out your target market. And so good market research. One of the things that, when I talk to small business owners here locally or entrepreneurs who are thinking about starting up an idea, I say, okay, well, a lot of times what someone will do is they say, oh, I just have this great idea. I love bathing suits, right? I want to sell bathing suits. I want to sell high-end bathing suits. And I say, okay, well, you love bathing suits and you love high-end bathing suits. Maybe you grew up in Florida, right? And you now live in Erie. And I say to them, well, what is your marketing plan? Who is your target market? How do you expect to make money, and how are you going to contact those folks, right? Is there a need for bathing suits, high-end bathing suits in Erie, Pennsylvania, right? And so I talked to them about that, and you guys are probably already, I'm using bathing suits as, an exaggerated situation, but what is our swim season here? It's very short, right? And so And even some of those days are tricky. We have the internet. So the idea of having a high-end bathing suit company in Erie, Pennsylvania there may not be a large enough market to support that business, right? So thinking about who are you marketing to? Who's going to buy this product? What is their, what salary price points are they at if they are buying a $100 bathing suit, $200 bathing suit? Now, those of you that have visited South cities like Miami, high-end bathing suit boutiques are everywhere, right? Completely different demographic. We have vacationers. We have different salary price points, right? Per capita income is very different in Miami than it is in Erie, Pennsylvania. And all of those things you can find, right? You can find out how many other boutiques are there and how are they doing well? Are they not doing well? What are their price points, right? And so doing a little bit of research. So you can probably, those of you that are from Pennsylvania or from anywhere really, think of maybe a business that you saw start up and it didn't last very long, right? We have a bunch in Erie. They start up and the idea, you think about it and you see it and you wonder like, who's going to shop there, right? Who's going to go get that service? And then you think, well, maybe I just don't know the market that they're targeting and there is a big market. And then sure enough, 6 months later, a year later, the business is closed, right? And so I see this sometimes when I talk to business owners, I say, just because you like something or you have interest in something, you have to find out if there's actually a market. And then you have to figure out, how do I attract that market? And what is the pricing realm that this market is interested in, right? And specifically, if you are marketing to an Erie community, how do you figure out what that price point is? How do you figure out how many people are in your target market? If your target market is college students aged, 20 to 30, you can actually figure out how many students are in college and then figure out how many are between the age of 20 and 30. So that would be your entire market, right? But if you're marketing to all college students, maybe you're only marketing to business majors, or maybe you're only marketing to men, right? Just depending on who your target market is, if everyone in your target market wanted your product, what would that number be? And then we kind of scale it back from there. So when you're thinking about marketing your business, you also have to think about competition. If there's no competition, the market's wide open. If there's a lot of competition, you need to figure out how are you going to get in there, just like a foot race. How are you going to get in there? Figure out what the other competition is doing and figure out how to be faster. Figure out how to be better in a marketing way that attracts customers to your business versus other businesses that are also competing for the same target market. All right, so in Chapter 8, we talk about, this idea of finding a target market and then marketing to them. So going back to my bathing suit example, what I'll tell business owners or folks that are interested in starting a business, when you figure out really the most important component is figure out a need that a lot of people have locally. It may not be bathing suits, even if you love bathing suits. It might be some sort of boot store, right? We have we need rain boots, we need winter boots. People need, technical boots like ski boots and snowboard boots and those types of boots. We need kids' boots, adults' boots, fancy boots. Boots might be something, some sort of store that sells boots might be something that people need. And we actually didn't have a boot store for a long time, and we recently got one because it's a need in our climate and in our area, right? Find out something that local people need, do interviews, and then that is what you want to provide versus going into a market and saying, this is what I like and I want everybody to have it. Well, that's wonderful, but the idea is kind of work backwards from what the market is asking for, right? What your local market is asking for. And that is how your business will be successful. So sometimes those two things, an entrepreneur has an idea, but that idea has to be tied to some sort of opportunity, not just something that they really like. I wish I could wave a magic wand and that would be the case, but unfortunately it is not. So you will read about that in Chapter 8. Thinking about branding, right? Branding is very important. I just had a discussion yesterday with one of our deans and vice president about branding, as we move forward, how do we brand even us as a college, EC3PA? How do we brand ourselves so that individuals living in Erie County know what we represent, know why we're here, know that we're here for education, know that we are here to benefit the local community by educating or offering education, affordable education to our residents, right? And then helping our residents build a skill set that then helps our local economy. Whether it's they are starting their own business or they are working for somebody else, they have the skill set to do so. And if somebody has a business already and they are looking for individuals that have a great skill set, we can provide those individuals a skill set and then show them, here are some of the job opportunities that are out there for you. And so branding ourselves, our college, so that our community understands why we're here will really help our college move forward in the future, right? So we were just talking about branding because we are a new entity. We're like we're like a small business. It's like an entrepreneurship situation because we are a new entity in the community. We have to get the word out, right? Just like anything else, if you had a boot store or you were selling tires, whatever it might be, or maybe you have a store, maybe you're into cosmetology and you wanted to open a place that does certain types of, newer cutting edge hairstyles, right? How do you get the community to know about that? And how do you, especially your target market that might be asking for that, right? So thinking about those items, entrepreneurial branding, and then coming up with a marketing plan, right? We talk about a business plan overall, and you will take a course that's about business plan writing. And we talk a little bit at the end of this. That's our project, right? Our business plan, and writing an outline for a business plan. But that business plan idea, really contains another component called a marketing plan. So you have your overall business plan, and within that, there's basically a tag for this is how we're going to market. And then there's an asterisk, and you have a whole separate marketing plan, separate from your overall business plan. It kind of blows up that little section of your business plan, the marketing component, into a more detailed situation. And then the last part, sales and customer service. Sales drive profit, right? And so thinking about how do I get more sales? How do I keep customers? How do I attract new customers? And how do I keep the customers that I have, right? We all operate as customers on a regular basis for a lot of different companies, whether they're small local companies or they're large national companies like Verizon or Spectrum or whatever, insurance companies. And so we know when there's good customer service and we know when there's bad customer service, right? We know when we want to leave a company because we can't handle how bad the customer service is. And so figuring out as a new business, how do you provide your customers with the best customer service so you keep them interested, you keep them working with you, and how then do you also attract new customers, right? So you have the new customers, and then you have keeping the existing customers. Both of those components are key when you're starting a business, and actually at all levels. Companies have to focus on both of those items, getting new customers, keeping the customers they have, right? And the new customers then turning them into loyal customers. And how do they do that? There's lots of different ways, and you're probably thinking as you're watching this video, you're thinking of some ways that you continue to be customers at certain stores, certain places online, certain places that offer service because of their customer service. Or maybe you left somewhere because of poor customer service and some other company attracted you because they had a very attractive offer to come into use their services or buy their products. So think about some of those items, whether it's at the small level, like you're just starting a business, or even at the largest level, right? Like Apple. I saw that Apple's doing they love to do this pre-sale thing. It's all part of their marketing. Excuse me. My children, 9 and 11, that have been on me about getting a new phone, were the ones that told me that was in their TikTok or somewhere that this is last week, the iPhone 14 is coming out because they both want 14s. They don't need 14s, right? They have old 11s that we had free, and so they use those, which isn't that old of a phone. I like 11s. So they told me about and they said, Mom, it's pre-order, right? So part of what Apple is doing to marketing and build excitement is they're doing this whole pre-order situation. And you can bet it's going to be hard to get 14s if you go into a Verizon store or go into an AT&T store on the 16th, which is this Friday, and say, I would like an iPhone 14. They're going to be tricky to find. We went through this with the 13 when my husband dropped his phone in the water. We had to get new phones. Unfortunately, the 13 had just come out, so it was hard to find, right? And so that's another component, right? There's limited amounts. So whether you're opening a small business here in Erie or you're Apple, you have a marketing plan for how you market new products and attract new customers, but how do you keep old customers, right? So some people that are iPhone lovers, they like to know that there's a new iPhone coming out every fall, right? Some people are early adopters and they want to get those products. But also there's a product line that they provide within, if any of you have purchased a phone recently, within, I'm just picking on Apple, within Apple, you can buy the regular 14, you can buy the 14 Pro, which has extra cameras, or you can buy the 14 Pro Max. 3 different products, 3 different price points, right? Then within each one of those products, it's how much storage space. So there's, 128, 256, 512, and 1 terabyte, right? In each of the 3 14 arenas. So then there's 3 price points within each. All of that is part of their marketing mix, those price points, right? Hitting a lot of different target markets and keeping a wider demographic of people that will be interested in the phones. So all of that, you can take a lot of the knowledge that you have as a consumer and think about how you are affected as a consumer, flip it if you're thinking about starting a new business, and think, what are the best things that I've encountered? I'm going to put those into my business when I market my business because I know that they work already, right? So that's chapter 8. There's some homework questions for chapter 8 that I have up here. And there's also that PowerPoint for you to review. The PowerPoint is very nice because it's like an outline for the